don't get caught where you find some really old firearm that you really like, that you would like to be able to shoot. And after you spend a bunch of money, you find out that shooting this is just not realistic. Hey folks, welcome back to Bullets and Brass. We're doing a quick one today, and the focus is on old firearms, as in 70 plus. And we're not talking real antiques. We're not talking original black powder stuff, or anything where the question of whether it's safe to shoot is beyond just basic metal fatigue into, was it ever, by modern standards, safe to shoot. We're talking about things like old 1911s, old Brown & High powers, old revolvers, because there's a lot of them out there. And when I look at my viewer demographics, you guys are 25 to 34. That is the hugest chunk of my audience. And I think that's key. You're a generation younger than me, right? That's about the time I got, again, reinterested in old stuff. Because when you're younger, you can't buy any of it. And you're watching TV shows and movies and stuff, and some of the old stuff really is cool. But then you hit the age where you can start to buy your own, or at least late teen years. Latest and greatest, right? I mean, no high speed, low drag, particularly the last 20 years. That's been the focus. Everybody, you want your AR-15s, you want, fancy shotguns. It's just how it is. I mean, it's a common thing, right? If you're the exception, you're the exception. There, say 80% of the market is that way. But then you get past the point where, okay, I've bought myself an AR-15 or 5. I've bought a Glock. I've bought a SIG or whatever it is you want for a normal handgun, maybe several, and you've got a shotgun. Okay, now what? And suddenly some of this old stuff starts to look pretty cool. This can be you're buying it because it's cool and it's a classic, not just because it is something you need. But what about shooting them? What about even having the option to shoot them? Because a lot of times you buy it and it's a collector's piece for you. You don't intend to shoot it regularly. But what about having the option? And my first suggestion, I'm a YouTube channel. I am trying to maintain my own audience, right? I'm telling you to go somewhere else. I'm telling you to go to Ian McCollum's channel, Forgotten Weapons, and see what he has to say about any firearm you're looking at that is in that age category. If it's in his market for firearms, if it's in his genre, and he's done a video on it, you want to watch that before you get your heart set. Because he's going to tell you if it has problems. He's going to tell you if this is something where, hey, there's a better one to be looking at, or hey, these really do, any good examples go for a ton of money, or this is the most likely fake. He's the guy. I mean, unless you know a curator at a museum that specializes in that firearm, he is the guy. Other things to look at. Can you get ammo? Is there factory ammo available for this firearm that is safe for that firearm? Not modern high pressure stuff. Can you get ammo at the store, or at least on a normal online basis, to shoot? Can you get reloading supplies for it if you reload? Can you get brass? Is there new production brass in that caliber? That's key. What about springs? Because if you get an old firearm, particularly things that were made in a hurry, war era guns, the springs weren't always so great. And if you've got a gun that, it might not have been shot a ton, but it sat around, metal fatigue eats into things. But it eats into them when they're under pressure or they've been beat on, not when they're just sitting there. But the springs are under tension. They're always under tension. Most firearms don't have a spring that is relaxed all the time. It's just not how they're designed. So even if it's not compressed fully, it's still under tension. If that spring doesn't work, can you get a replacement? If that spring breaks, can you get a replacement? Now, if you're talking about something like this J-frame revolver, okay, and we're clear. If you're talking about a J-frame revolver, they've been around a long time. You can get springs. I don't believe there is a single J-frame revolver style out there that you cannot get any of the springs required. New production, no problem. Okay. A 1911, same thing. You can get the springs. A Brown and High Power, a Single Action Army, a early Ruger, Colt Woodsman, all of these kind of guns, any of the old rifles that are in this category. If there's something that was a really popular common item, you can get springs. But if you start getting into some of the more esoteric stuff, do some research, find out, because they can have a spring where you just can't get it. Any parts, firing pins, magazines. If you're doing an antique magazine-fed firearm, can you get magazines like affordably? Ian's talked about a couple guns where the magazines are worth more than the guns because they were considered disposable. And when they stopped producing the guns held up. But the magazines got used. People kept using them and they wore them out. They damaged them over time. And now you can buy the gun for a relatively affordable amount, but you just can't get magazines. And if you find one, people want $1,000 for it. Just keep it all in mind. Don't get caught where you find some really old firearm that you really like, that you would like to be able to shoot. And after you spend a bunch of money, you find out that shooting this is just not realistic. That's no fun. And the goal is to enjoy your hobby. Enjoy the interest in it. Enjoy the collecting. Take care all, have fun, stay safe, keep shooting as much as you can.